welcome to Ask a Responsive Fundraiser, where we take your questions to a fundraising expert so that ultimately you can grow generosity. And today we're taking your questions to Glen Peck. Now, Glen serves as the Lustgarten Foundation's SVP of Technology and Business Intelligence, where he leverages 3 decades of technology expertise to maximize constituent engagement in support of the organization's mission to transform pancreatic cancer into a curable disease. Glen, we're super glad to have you here. Thanks for taking some time to answer some questions.
Great. Thank you. I'm happy to be here, Scott.
Awesome. Well, let's dive into the first one. It's this. CRM transitions can feel risky and disruptive, especially at large, complex organizations. So what are the biggest pitfalls to avoid when leading a CRM migration? And how can leaders set the right foundation early?
Yeah. So the biggest pitfall is probably even taking on a CRM migration, but it is an inevitable necessity, I suppose. The things that we have really worked on are to remember who our end users are. We're exposed to technology all day long here on the technology team. We're the ones that are vetting systems that come in. They all look cool, right? We get really excited about the new technologies, new tracking, new whatever the thing is, new reporting. But we're not really our end users. Our end users are the development team, which has a lot more soft skills. They're really into those personal engagement and the things that are probably come a little less well to us on the technology team, but they're the people that are going to be using that tool. And rather than thinking of the tool as this technology piece that's going to bring us all of these new options for us to be able to pull neat reports or whatever it is, I really work to remind my team and both the technology team and the larger staff audience that they're going to use this system every day. And our goal is to maybe release us from some of the tasks that we're doing right now so that we can start looking at that bigger goal that we have, which is to grow our fundraising, grow our organization, grow the marketing response and all of those things. So I'd say biggest pitfall is forgetting that this is a user platform. It's not a technology platform. That said, obviously we want all those technology tools, but we need to remember who those end users are. That's the biggest one. And then I would say the second pitfall is leaving enough time for a CRM migration. It's not quick and easy, right? It's not, I think in the finance world, we'd love to be able to say, okay, the budget this year includes one CRM and next year it's a different CRM. We'll never make that, one overnight switch. So we're going to have to carry 2 platforms simultaneously for some period of time, right? And I think it's important to set that expectation from purchase all the way through, so that you don't get everyone excited, you get all the leadership excited about a new system that's going to bring new tools. And we're going to have it on, next year. We're going to roll it out in December or whatever. Well, our fiscal year is in June. We're going to be paying for 2 platforms for 6 to 12 months, maybe 18 months, depending on how large the org is and how large the system. Those, I think, are the 2 that are the biggest pitfalls. Everything else is technology. It's ones and zeros. It's going to work itself out. There's going to be some struggles here and there, but time and people are the 2 things that are easiest to overlook or just think about them in a different way and not realize you might be opening up a can of worms.
Yeah, I think that's really helpful, especially saying, hey, remember, we are one organization trying to, move the ball down the field and not just silos trying to accomplish our own thing. I think that's really helpful to call out. Question number 2 is this. Often teams rush to replicate old workflows in a new system instead of rethinking what's possible. So how do you balance honoring institutional knowledge with pushing for real operational change during a CRM transition?
I happen to have a CEO who is adamant that because we used to or because we always have is probably the least qualified answer ever to give her as a justification.
Yeah.
So for me, what we've been doing all along is not a foregone conclusion that we're doing it right. And that's not because of this org or its history or any of the other orgs I've supported. It's just because stuff changes. It's technology. And as technology changes, everything changes, from the reporting to the what we can track and what we can't track. And so for me, when I'm looking at those things and I'm keeping that in mind, it's not necessarily that we've always done it. we're buying a new tool because we like the promise of that tool. We bought the tool, we invested in the tool because it told us it was going to do something that we weren't currently doing. We'd be silly to buy a tool that's just going to give us what we already do, right?
Yeah.
Why pay more money for that? Unless it's cheaper, maybe. But the end game is we want something from that tool. And so we should, in my mind, we should say as close to that out of the box functionality as we can get. Now, that doesn't mean that we're just always going to be changing up all of our policies and processes just based on whatever tool we bought that year. We tend to try and buy tools on a longer scope, right? We try to think longer so we can have some stability. We can have a bumpy year to get things going, 2 years of nice, good, smooth riding, and then we'll kind of reevaluate is our internal process. But thinking about those tools and really trying to use the tool the way the tool was designed is what's most effective for us. That does mean that my team, the technologists, we may have to have 2 changes. We may have to do the initial change, which is just to change the underlying technology, but at the same time, we're going to do that in a way where we can get out the reports and the things that the downstream processes can still function as they are. But then once we get that technology all done, we're probably then going to have a second internal project, which isn't going to have the same vendors and the same consultants. We're now internally going to go, okay, we're going to change that process. We have whatever it is, a caging process, right? We're going to change that. We're going to give you a different report that you're going to use in your lookup tables. And we'll deal with those things in one-off kind of little micro projects instead of just trying to do everything beginning to end all in one go.
Yeah. All right. Next question for you. You had actually just mentioned a bit about reporting, and I want to dive in there. Reporting is often where CRMs succeed or fail in the eyes of leadership. So what's your approach to building a reporting strategy that not only informs, but actually drives decision-making and donor engagement?
This is a tough one. And this question, man, I wish I had just an answer that was the bulletproof. This always works. It doesn't. And I would say that reporting today is probably going to be different than it was yesterday. Probably going to be different tomorrow. There's going to be a new question that's asked, all of that stuff. So again, it goes partly into that selection process. We're buying something which is going to give us some known quantity out of the box. Maybe we need to augment those things, but this is another area where I try and stay closer to those upfront decisions. Why'd we choose this product? Why'd we do this? And work on that. When it comes to building out that, when you're working on the build out of your CRM, the deployment, for me, I like to have the data collection drive the data storage rather than the reporting and the data use drive the data storage. If it's collectible and it's actionable, I want to collect it. So hopefully I'm investing in a system that's going to let us plug this data into custom fields, right? So extensibility is important for me as a decision point. That lets us store more data. So then we can ask iterative questions. If we put out a report, inevitably there's going to be someone in leadership that's going to say, oh, well, what's behind this number? And to get at that number, we may get some information that quite possibly we would have just tossed if we didn't have a custom field to put it into. And then we'd have to dig down deeper into a secondary or tertiary system to figure out that. So I like to let the data collection drive the data storage more so than what the reporting needs will be. Because the reports are going to change. We know for a fact reporting needs will change tomorrow.
Yeah. Yeah, that's a really good distinction to draw. All right, last question. Nonprofit tech teams often play defense, so things like fixing issues, maintaining systems, staying compliant. So how can people move from a reactive posture to a more proactive, innovation-driven role that supports fundraising growth?
This is another one of those really tough ones, right? I think that we're not perfect on this, right? We're trying, and I think that's actually part of how the tech team should be constructed. In my mind, is that you just know that there's always going to be some failure. This is a perfect example of, I forget what the saying is, but don't let perfection be the enemy of success or something like that. That 80-20 rule. If it's 80% there, that other 20% you can do after the fact. I think that that's kind of true for how a tech team really should be operating. It is technology. There are going to be hurdles, right? That there's going to be bugs. There's going to be just data that we just can't get because Apple turned off the tracking, or there's going to be something that's going to happen. So
Yeah.
you need to just focus on how do we get the most actionable data for whatever the particular thing is. For us, it's mostly data. We're not dealing with a lot of IT, more traditional IT things. So for us, it's data. How do we get that data, get it rich, keep it in there, and proactively look at, hey, we're seeing this trend. Does anybody have an idea what this trend is about? Or maybe we need to, that's maybe where we need to see something. We need to notice that there's something happening in a report and then realize, but that report's not capturing something. And that's where we maybe look at that extra data that we're storing that I talked about in the other example. It's understanding the needs of the people that you're reporting to. Typically in our team, when we're playing defense, it's usually, hey, this report's a little wonky, what's going on here? Or the numbers did this thing, what's going on? So we're looking at those things and trying to do an initial view before anyone else is seeing those. And so hopefully we're catching things on the early end, and we are there. But how to do it, it's hard. It's getting as close to the donor in the moment of wherever they are. Yeah, it's looking across platforms. It's things that our regular tools just aren't giving us readily out of the box. We've got to compare different systems sometimes. I don't know
Yeah.
if that's a good answer to that question, actually.
No, I think that it is. And that's the reality, right? That everyone's situation and context is different. But I think there's some general principles, ways of thinking that people can apply to then apply to their context and know this is kind of the right step forward for us. Well, Glenn, thanks so much for taking the time today to answer these questions, to
Absolutely.
share your expertise. We really appreciate you being with us.
Great. Thank you so much, Scott.